So you want to be a DPS, Lucio, but your aim sucks. Despite how I sound, I understand what you're going through, because like, how in the world are you supposed to train Lucio aim? And the practice range is okay, and hero mastery is still a bit far out from now. So how are you supposed to properly train your aim on Lucio? So join me and I will teach you the ways of the DPS Lucio. Let's say you wanted to practice your aim on a DPS hero. What would you do then? And I mean, yeah, the practice range is there, but it's not great in its current form. So you'd probably want to use an aim trainer. Well, the same applies to Lucio. This is the aim trainer I use. But before I give you the code, I want to explain to you exactly how it works and how I work in the aim trainer. So this aim trainer spawns a variable of bots, ranging from 0, for some reason, all the way to 12. These bots spawn as other heroes. However, these depend on what you set it to. Here in the workshop settings, we can set how many bots there are, if crowd control affects you, which heroes will spawn, and you can even change the specifics of how the bots move. However, I don't tend to mess with that bot movement setting, I just mess with everything else. What's also important to know about which heroes spawn is that you also select what category of heroes spawn, whether it's tank, DPS, and or support. So for example, if you turn off DPS, then Cassidy, Genji, Ashe, etc. will not spawn. My current preference for which heroes to spawn is everyone in DPS and support except for Echo, as I have found Echo very frustrating to deal with in this aim trainer. So that was how the aim trainer works. Here's how I use the aim trainer. So immediately from the start, I set the bots to the easiest setting. This is so that I can readjust myself to understand Lucio's weapon. I use this time to understand how Lucio's bullets work. Since Lucio's bullets are projectiles, that means they require time to actually hit their target. So you have to do this thing called leading your target, which is where you fire ahead of where the target is going in order for them to meet your bullet. So again, this time is spent purely just trying to hit my shots. But once I feel more comfortable with landing shots, I will then adjust to aiming for headshots. It's very important to know the head levels of every hero, because not all heroes have the same head level. What doesn't help this fact is how Lucio is also really short. He's still my king though. So there will be many times, especially if you're up close and personal, where you'll have to look up in order to hit headshots. So this time is spent just aiming for heads, getting as many headshots as I can. Especially because headshots are a DPS Lucio's best friend. I mean, like, check this clip out. Widow dead. See how important that is? But let's see one more clip. Okay, admittedly that clip didn't have many headshots, but the point still stands. You see how easy those fights were because I landed headshots? But anyway, something I also do during this time is to put something easy to listen to, like a podcast or a show, or even joining a Discord call with my buddies, because this really helps make the time fly, but still get a lot of training done. Here's the workshop code for the aim trainer. Now I want to go more in depth with Lucio's aim. I'm talking about particular aiming styles. What we just covered is the base aiming style. This is just getting a hang of Lucio's weapon and projectile, just really understanding how it works and how to use it to get the most damage. However, I see this aiming style as relaxed damage, since in comparison to the other aiming styles, this one's just way more calm. Especially if you practice hitting headshots from long distances, you can contest snipers from far away. However, I would not recommend doing that, as that heavily increases your chances of just getting capped. Instead, you should contest snipers by getting in their face, which brings up this next aiming style, the Reddit/DPS aiming style. This style is very rapid and all over the place. Especially if you have a high mouse sensitivity, then this style is really difficult to control, which I know of two methods to help control your aim. The first method is using the same aim trainer, but setting the bots to normal or hard, and then just getting up in their face all the time. However, the biggest downfall of this aim trainer with Lucio is that there's not enough walls around to get a realistic scenario. That's when this next workshop comes in. I call this workshop Lucio's Warmup for two reasons. One, it creates a more realistic scenario, albeit not 100%, as there's two tanks, rest in peace, but it creates a better picture of what it will look/feel like in actual games, as these bots will move around and even react to your presence. If you go and fight Diana, then she'll try to sleep dart you. The second reason for it being called Lucio Warmup is because it's on Lucio's old playground, Temple of Anubis. The only time you will see this map in an official game mode is in the arcade, as there's a chance for one of the dailies to be assault maps, because Temple of Anubis is a 2 CP map, 2 capture point map. I'll talk about why Temple of Anubis is Lucio's playground later. I use Lucio Warmup to, well, warm up. I use it to wall ride around, dive some enemies, just doing a lot of classic Reddit Lucio stuff. If you use the aim trainer beginner, then you need to do the Lucio warm-up before playing any games as Lucio. There are also some bonus options with this warm-up. Once you press your interact button, it's fairly self-explanatory of what they do, but I'm going to explain it anyway. Wall ride only makes it so that you have to be on a wall in order to do damage to any of the bots. This is helpful to ensure that you are just sticking to the walls while doing damage. And what's nice is that this setting gives a little breathing room to do damage after touching the ground. Toggle healing makes it so that the healing bots there, the Ana and the Zen, will start healing the other bots. Now, dealing damage is great and all, but how do we avoid damage? What you're seeing here is Beyblading, and while some of the time it works, you should really save these for when you're feeling more goofy and not in a competitive setting. Here's some dodging movement that you should use. This tip comes from the #1 Hanzo Arg, but I have found this to be useful and applicable to Lucio as well. I'm not exactly certain if it works like it does with Hanzo, but I've been using it and it's been working the vast majority of times, which is when you see a sniper like Ashe or Widowmaker, especially Widowmaker, then you rotate your head 90 degrees, not do like a 180 or like spin or whatever. Because if you did a 180, then your head hitbox would still be roughly in the same position. However, doing 90 degrees will move your head hitbox to the side a little bit instead of spinning it to the exact same position. The next dodging method, this is a classic move that almost all players know, which is AD spamming. This is just when you rapidly move side to side, and most of the time this tends to work well. However, people are starting to get good even at this unpredictable AD spamming. So how do we counter this? With snipers, especially Widow, what I tend to do is favor going one way versus the other, i.e. instead of pressing A and D 50% of the time each, pressing D like 10% more. You should especially do this when the sniper's aim has stopped following you, because what they're doing is waiting for you to start moving into their crosshair to fire, which most of the time it works out for them. However, doing this favoring method will make it so that they will have to move their crosshair to try and hit you. For the final method, I'm going to show you a clip first to see if you can identify it, and then I'll tell you. It was that sudden pause in my movement. This is my favorite clip from my old video, I'm Back Baby, because if you look closely, you will notice that when I stop moving completely, the Widow flicks to the side of me because she was expecting my movement to keep going in that direction. This sudden stop in movement is also how you can mess up a McCree/Cassidy's aim too. Even this Cash/Cree main says it.
When you're moving left and right, AD with a Cass, they can kind of like follow your rhythm, and if you stand still, you pretty much like break the rhythm.
And I've started doing it recently, and oh my gosh, it works. I even sometimes won't fight back against Cree/Casses because it's just fun to mess with them. Finally is, if you're stuck moving in the air, is to just look down and away from wherever the enemy is at. This is not a foolproof guarantee that you'll survive, but it'll at least increase your chances of survival. The reason for this is because Widowmakers do it to each other. So something I haven't talked about that is equally as important as everything I've been telling you so far is about acknowledging your weaknesses. Sometimes there are things that you just can't handle and you just gotta accept that. For example, one of my biggest weaknesses is Echo. She is a very frustrating hero to hit when she's in the air. But despite that, I will occasionally turn Echo on and try to shoot her from the ground to try and get a better feel for it. So that way in the future, I won't have as hard of a time. But this is an example of one of the easiest ways to acknowledge your weakness. Whatever hero you struggle fighting against, take note of it and fight against them in the aim trainer. I also believe you should be open to changing playstyles too, because in some games, this DPS/Reddit Lucio style is just not going to work no matter how well you play. The only exception to this is if it is just you in quick play just having fun. Then go for it, have a blast, keep doing it. But if you're in a competitive setting or if you're trying to win, then you should understand that the Reddit/DPS Lucio style is not perfect for every situation. Sometimes you need to help your team. There are so many instances where I will see Lucios play this Reddit/DPS style and it just doesn't work. I've seen Lucios play this style so badly that it just looks like they're throwing, and you do not want that because that is an easy report against you. If it's wanted, I can go more in depth as to this other playstyle that I am talking about like helping your team, being a support Lucio. But the only reason I have no plans to make it now is because there are plenty of other guides that cover this. I'll even try to find and link a good one in the description. And if you're not very knowledgeable on wall riding, then you should check out this other video by Eskay, also linked in the description. I hope regardless of what skill level you're at, whether it sounds easy or difficult, I hope this guide has helped you improve on your DPS Lucio adventures. I 100% believe that this is the most fun Lucio playstyle, but there is a learning curve to it. But if you keep with it, then eventually you'll be good enough that you can just goof around with your buddies and still make up for it with your good plays. But with that, I believe that is the end of this guide. If you have any questions, post them in the comments and I will do my best to answer them. Good luck on your DPS Lucio adventures.